President Trump says China is calling. Beijing says not so fast. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Big Money Show. I'm Brian Bremberg, along with my co-hosts Taylor Riggs, Dagan McDowell, Jackie DeAngelis, and with us for the hour, Forbes media chairman and editor-in-chief Steve Forbes. Welcome, one and all. The White House insists active trade talks are underway, but China's pushing back, saying those negotiations aren't happening. Trump isn't backing off, telling Time magazine he's already made 200 trade deals and wouldn't mind if tariffs stayed at 50% a year from now. Meanwhile, China's economy is taking a hit. U.S. buyers are pulling orders. Factories are shutting down. Some Chinese workers are being furloughed or fired. So who's bluffing? Who's hurting? And what does victory really look like? Mr. Steve Forbes, on a Friday, I come to you looking for a little good news. Do you think... That's why I didn't go this route, okay? I want to go to Steve Forbes.
No, Steve's not the Grim Reaper.
He's a happy guy.
Friday. The good news
it's
is Friday.
But you're looking at what the president's saying. You're the drip of news around tariffs. Do you see some positive momentum here for a guy who I know doesn't love tariffs?
Well, all this talk about deals, I think the markets are waiting for. Let's see the beef. And not the talk about the beef.
Okay.
And China, I think both sides are trying to figure out face-saving ways to get things back on track again. China's going to react. And if you shut that economy down for a while, that's going to lead to something I think have international implications. So I hope they deal with that, realize this isn't just about trade. And the president's saying to Time magazine that he'll be happy if we have 20 to 50% tax rates or tariffs a year from now. That would be a disaster for the economy. And I don't think the markets think that's going to be the result.
Although markets...
And by the way, one of the things that's going to happen in coming months, you're starting to see the suits filed already. I think ultimately the Supreme Court is going to say part or all of what he's done is unconstitutional.
You're talking about those 12 states suing the administration.
And there are others. There are firms are doing it. Some think tanks are doing it. So, it's going to the Supreme.
That's interesting. Do you agree on that, Jackie?
I think it's certainly possible. I mean, those actions have already started, right? People are balking when they think of the notion of tariffs because they're anticipating what could happen. But you said something before about saving face, and I think that's really important because there are some quiet things that are happening as all as this is playing out. The most recent report I saw was that Apple is shifting most of its U.S. iPhone production to India by 2026 to avoid some of the China tariffs. So a company like that already starting to get stuff in motion. Then I wake up this morning, another report coming out. China quietly rolls back retaliatory tariffs on some U.S.-made semiconductors. And this is according to the import agencies. So you've got it happening quietly, like you're saying. When you file the papers, all of a sudden you see something might be changed. But it's not like this huge announcement that's coming out from Washington or coming out from Beijing. And I think you're going to continue to see things like this, whether it's the countries kind of shifting a little bit here and there, or it's the companies trying to do something. I mean, we don't have a deal with India yet, but obviously Apple is anticipating something there. So whether it's India, Japan, South Korea, what are the other big ones on the table right now?
South Korea's out there.
Right. So
Indonesia,
Vietnam. So, and he's also saying, Trump, he's also saying that they've got deals. They just haven't made formal announcements yet. I think that's a big mistake. If he's got some deals, they should be trickling out to reassure the public.
And the easy one would be South Korea, where we already have a free trade agreement. So a few changes on the T's and the dotting the I's should get that done pretty quickly. They should roll that out this weekend.
So, Dagan, Steve is in the where's the beef camp, the Wendy's camp, we could call it. Is that where you are right now? Or do you like what the president's saying on the number of deals? Or we've heard it all before for you?
I still think, and this isn't me, but we're in the pickup truck with President Trump driving, and it's night, and he's got the headlights off. And we're driving down a dirt road.
Are we in the truck bed or in the front seat?
You always ride in the front.
And how many seatbelts are we wearing?
In the bed, you're getting thrown out because we're on a dirt road and the lights are off. And President Trump is saying, I got it. All good. I know where I'm going. But there has to be a lot of trust involved in this. And I do know that because a lot of people are trying to parse, you go back to what he said some years ago I think, and Larry Kudlow has talked about this. It was actually written up in an article by James Freeman called Vintage Trump. This was from a couple of weeks ago, where the president in 2018 at that Group of Seven summit in Charlevoix, Quebec, Canada, where he was talking about no tariffs, no barriers, that was his vision for trade. People are trying to figure out if that's where he's going or not. No tariffs, no barriers. My guess would be will be tariffs. There will be a flat tariff, as Wall Street was anticipating initially, across the board 10% tariff as a revenue raiser because we're so deep in debt. And then deals to level the playing field and bring American manufacturing here back to the United States. So, but you have to wait. And one thing I will point out, and I keep bringing up the auto parts tariff, the 25% that goes into effect early May. Right now, there's an exemption for smartphones and electronics that are manufactured in China and other foreign countries, but not an exemption for yet on auto parts manufactured in China and other foreign countries that will be used to manufacture vehicles here in the United States. So I don't know, that hurts U.S. manufacturing rather than helping. I hope that gets fixed.
So I listen to Dagan and Taylor a lot on this show on market stuff, and it makes me think about the 10-year bond yield a lot. And I noticed today that the 10-year's down in the 4.2 range, 4.25, I think, or thereabouts at the moment. There you go. So I look at that, Taylor, and I'm thinking about how the markets are digesting things. Now, Steve isn't sold. He's where's the beef. But it looks like the bond market is saying maybe there's something going on here with China and the U.S. that they like.
Yeah, you know, gosh, Steve, you're one of the smartest people in this room. I don't disagree with you.
Here it comes, though, just wait.
You are. No, and I don't disagree with you, but I'm just wondering if there is room for argument's sake to what Jackie was bringing up about Apple starting to shift some of their iPhone production by the end of next year, 2026, to India. Is that not sort of what this was about? You know, if it's not onshoring, at least getting out of China, because China doesn't play fair. And I have to say, you guys, I don't know. I think this was the issue that Trump in part really was elected on. He was talking about tariffs on the campaign trail. People knew that, and they continued to vote for him. Yes, this was much higher, I think, than people had expected. I absolutely give you that. But I think about a post I read on X from a guy in Ohio who said, like, we're done outsourcing jobs. Like, we are done with, even if you go 0% tariffs, China still devalues their currency. They're still engaging in IP tech transfer force. They're still stealing our intellectual property. They still mandate that the government's involved when our private companies want to go do business over there. And so, yeah, there is some pain, but I have to think that there's a lot of people in the Midwest who voted for him that are thinking, but this is what I didn't mind a little pain, because I'm so worried about the future of my job and my national security. And we talked about Apple maybe taking a 30-cent per share headwind. This is a company that pulls in almost $400 billion a year. They're pulling in $125 billion in revenue every quarter. They are net income $100 billion, I'm looking at, according to some estimates. So again, I believe in capitalism. These companies have every right to make a profit. That is their fiduciary duty. I don't want to get in the way of that. But at some point, is that not the shared responsibility that they should be shifting some production, or other companies do the same?
But the thing is, if China was the problem, you didn't need to put tariffs on the rest of the world off the cuff and disrupt supply chains, which is going to hit the economy later this year. The specific abuses you could have dealt with. For example, the Chinese had virtually admitted that they started hacking some of our infrastructure late last year. What retaliatory measures do we take specific to that? So specific abuses, deal with them, hit them on specific abuses. They have a lot of companies that depend on the U.S. market, so you could do, again, a laser-like approach instead of this blunderbuss approach, which hits everyone. And then you have the politics. Who's going to get an exemption? Well, Tim Cook got one right away. We know why, of hopefully auto parts. What about the small people who don't have lobbyists in Washington who can lobby for exemptions?
They're in the bed of the pickup truck, those small businesses, and some of them have already been tossed into the dust.
Yeah, so China problem, deal with China specifically.
Yeah.
If you're,
That's fair.
if you're in the back of the pickup truck, bring a pad to sit on because it can get really bumpy.
See, I'm a redneck, and Brian is, well, you're a swamp Yankee. And
I like that, actually. I've never been
you know
called
what
a swamp
you know what I'm
before.
talking about. But that said, the markets have calmed down
They
this
have,
week a
indeed.
great deal. Bonds, even the dollar's up against the euro today. So there has been a
And it's
sense of
telling,
calm.
Scott Bessent is the one who's been leading that.
Yep.
And that story that he and Letnick had to go to the Oval Office when they knew that another individual was out of the White House, and therefore they could go in and not have Peter Navarro around saying, oh, this is glorious, and get the president to change
That
his
was
mind
the-
and put a 90-day suspension on it.
That was the day.
And that's the kind of thing that is kind of makes people uncertain. Was there a well thought out strategy here? No, it was off the cuff, and that's what has people worried.
But the brain is in charge. The brains are in charge. That day was the morning after the Treasury market got yippee, as President Trump described it. But the Treasury market got locked up about midnight.
This gets the whole thing, though. We want to see some real deals soon.
Yep.